another lecture coming up. So then, as the story progresses,
so it's basically
in the beginning, like I said, in the beginning we started with the beginning, and then it grew into a reverse. Now we went through history, and we came to maybe halfway, 4,000 years later, and going into a bit more. So now we have to come back to the now and into the future. Okay? So, is everyone ready to see what we have to do?
Yes.
Yes. So without further ado, let us welcome our next speaker, Seirei.
In a day, yes. Thank you so much for with us, and I know because we already listened to the fourth lecture, right? And this is some tips. But we have two left. But I mean, as Mambo mentioned, our history is going. And then mostly my lecture will talk about, I will talk about in 2,000 years after Jesus came and until, recently. So I will talk and I put this title, The Advance of the True Parents. So let's start. I think through our previous lecture, we learned about Heavenly Parents' original dream, right? And this is that to live happily forever with God's children or people of the world, right? And also we learned how God has walked a long and difficult path to find God's lost children after the fall. And to save all His lost children, God had made a preparation for a very long time, and sent His only Son, Jesus, to the Jewish people with an honest heart. But unfortunately, the leaders and the Jewish people at the time did not fulfill their responsibility. So because of this, Jesus had to walk the way to the cross. I think we learned until this. But however, God's original dream, don't stop. Dream and the providence did not end there. So from the very beginning, Heavenly Parents planned to establish only begotten Son and only begotten daughter as the true parents. And as the true husband and true wife, the true parents. And through them, God wanted to embrace all humanity as a one family. Okay, so therefore, in the lecture, we will learn not only about Jesus, only begotten Son, who came, but also we will talk about only begotten daughter, who reveals another aspect of God's nature. And we will also look at how God prepared the only begotten daughter. Just as God prepared the Jewish people to receive Jesus and the only begotten Son, we will learn also the history and the providential cause that prepared the way for the only begotten daughter to this time. Okay, as I didn't remember this screen, Lisa's lecture, the session 1. At the time she mentioned about God has the one to speak dream. This is the to live happily with His children on His earth, and to be with them forever in love, and even after they go to the spirit world. But God does not have a physical body, right? So He can't see, He can't be seen. We can't touch or live with people in the same way like human beings, right? So that's why God wanted to establish Adam and Eve, the first ancestors, and through them, yeah, he wanted to see his children to live together in love and rejoice with them. But yeah, because of the fall of Adam and Eve, yeah, God's first dream was broken, right? But even so, God never gave up his will, yeah, God's will. So he began his providence of salvation. His plan was to raise to only begotten son and only begotten daughter, establish two parents, and finally fulfill his original dream, idea of creation. So according to the principle, men and women, yeah, have equal values, right? So the God's original creation is also fulfilled when the men and the women together accomplish God's will. But when we see the Jesus generation, Jesus was not able to celebrate the marriage supper of the Lamb, right? So in other words, he couldn't receive the holy marriage during his life on earth. So he said, yeah, I will come again. But as we learned in the last lecture, the Muni's lecture, the second coming does not mean that Jesus himself will be born again, right? So it means that God will once again establish a man instead of Jesus and the only begotten daughter as the true parents. For this to happen, the foundation of faithful people have to be prepared to protect and receive them. So that's why God chose the people and guided his providence for a long period of time. But this brings us to the important question. Was there also an only begotten daughter at the time of Jesus? So I think we can imagine that we can guess at the time, Jewish society, not only Jewish society, just all of the world, at the time society was strongly patriarchal. So it was not an environment where a woman could lead God's providence. Yeah, I think we can imagine. Also, Mary's family, Zachariah's family, and even though the Jewish people did not fulfill their responsibility to protect the only begotten son and prepare the way to true parents. So as a result, yeah, Jesus, he had no choice, and he had to walk to the cross. So I think you can think, considering the situation at the time and a providential preparation, we can understand that that it was not simply that there was no only begotten daughter. Rather, the foundation was not ready for God to send the only begotten daughter. So 2,000 years ago, God sent Jesus, the only begotten Son. Yeah, God sent him on foundation of chosen people, the Jewish nations. But unfortunately, the Jewish people did not fulfill their responsibility and protect. They couldn't receive him. So instead they rejected him and lost faith in him, right? And in the end, he was led to the cross. So because of this, the providence of true parents not be fulfilled, and the foundation to send the only begotten daughter was not established. So let us think about the Jewish people's situation after that. Unfortunately, they lost their nation, and the were scattered throughout the world for about 2,000 years. And during the World War II, the 6 million Jewish were killed in the Holocaust, right? And even today, there is continuing the struggle, conflict between Jewish and the Palestine over Jerusalem. So But however, God did not stop because of human failure, because God knew that people might fail in their responsibility. So God did not prepare only one chosen people. He also prepared another chosen, another foundation of His providence. So God's will, will surely be fulfilled. But through which people and in which age it is fulfilled actually depends on the responsibility of us humans. So that's why God prepared Jewish people in the West to receive the only begotten Son, and another chosen people in the East to receive the only begotten daughter in the future. Okay, so that people is the Korean people. The Jewish people whom God had prepared in the West, but they were not able to receive the Jesus, the only begotten Son. So as a result, the providence to establish the true parents could not be fulfilled. And new people, the Korean people, and a new nation were needed to receive the only begotten daughter. So God established the Korean people in the east side as a new chosen people. And God had been preparing them alongside the Jewish people, even before the birth of Jesus. Actually, from 5,000 years ago. And throughout the thousands of years history, God guided and prepared the Korean people to receive the only begotten daughter and fulfill their responsibility. Okay, so I want to introduce one of the most important values in Korean culture is hyo, or filial piety in Korea. So hyo is more the simply respecting by obeying one's parents. It means understanding their heart and returning love and joy to them. So this spirit of hyo is closely connected with God's original idea of creation, in which we attended God as a heavenly parent and live life of true love. So hyo is not just moral duty. So it is a culture in which children willingly return love and their parents. So this tradition of hyo has also been recognized around the world. So in 1973, as a Poland in the United Kingdom, the historian Arnold Toynbee was deeply moved after hearing about the Korean culture of hyo. And he said and have remarked, if humanity were to move to a new planet, the first culture we should take with us is the Korean culture of hyo. So through this tradition of hyo, somehow God prepared the Korean people with the heart to attend the God as their parents, and in the future to receive the only begotten daughter, and also true parents. So but I think we can guess what was the mission of the Korean people who were chosen as a new chosen people. So first of all, they were not to repeat the failure of the Jewish people. The purpose of God's providence of salvation is established the only begotten Son and only begotten daughter as the true parents and fulfill God's idea of creation. So therefore, the Korean people has to prepare the spiritual and environmental foundation for the birth of the only begotten daughter. And when the true parents come alive, the Korean people were not reject or stop them, but instead they were to unite with the parents and fulfill God's will together with them. So as the central people, starting the true parents, they also had the responsibility to testify to God and the true parents before all humanity, and the people back into God's embrace. So then, how did God prepare the Korean people to fulfill God's will? We can think more. So first, God prepared the religious foundation so that the Korean people could receive the only begotten daughter. The foundation was actually Christianity. So the flow of faith began with the Protestant Reformation, and it continued through the Puritan movement, and until the Great Awakening in America. And then finally, it led to the Holy Spirit movement in Korea. And through this providence cause, God prepared the environment to birth on the only begotten daughter. So by the 16th century, the Catholic Church had become corrupt and was no longer able to carry on God's new providence. So God began to Protestant Reformation and renewed Christianity. The Reformation was not just a reform the Korean Christianity church. It was God's plan to prepare a new Christian foundation for receiving only begotten daughter. So as we learned in the last session, Yameni's lesson, the spirit of Reformation, especially John Calvin, he wrote, he helps about the Protestant Reformation a lot, and it became the foundation for the growth of Protestant Christianity over the next 400 years. And in this way, God continued to prepare the foundation, also to birth only begotten daughter. And then next, after the Protestant Reformation, God the Father renewed the Christian faith through the Puritan movement. The Puritan came to America from UK, right? And they started, pure faith and the religious freedom. And there, they built a strong Christian foundation, right? And then later, America, became a center of worldwide, Christian missions. So this stream of, faith was eventually brought to Korea and became an important foundation for the growth of Protestant Christianity there. And in the 20th century, the Great Awakening took place in America to receive declining Christian faith. And also through this movement, many Christians experienced the Holy Spirit and receive a calling to spread the gospel around the world. So as a result, many missionaries were sent to Korea from America. And even before the missionary arrived, already Korean people had began the translating the Bible and accepting the gospel on their own. So through the devotion of American missionaries and also Korean people's their own devotion, the foundation, it became the foundation of Protestant Christianity, and Korea became even stronger. And in the early 20th century, the Holy Spirit movement began in America, spread to Korea. And it became the final religious foundation for the birth of only begotten daughter. And through this movement, God guided to rise the spiritual roots in Korea. And they were waiting for the second coming of Christ and led the spiritual revival to prepare for the Lord's return. So in this way, they prepare the spiritual environment to receive the only begotten daughter. So God, prepared the Korean people and the nation of Korean as a national foundation. So God also prepared the Christianity and the spiritual groups as a religious foundation. So on the foundation of all these providential preparations, the first only begotten daughter, Dr. Hak Ja-han, was born on January 6, 1943. So finally, after 6,000 years of Heavenly Parents' providence, the only begotten daughter, Heavenly Parents' own daughter, was born among the Korean people. So I think we can now let's look at how the Korean people prepare the foundation for the birth and when and how she came into the world. We know that to restore the children who were lost throughout the fall of Adam and Eve, but both the only begotten son and the daughter had to be born, right? So Heavenly Parents prepared over 40,000 years, or 40 before sending Jesus, the only begotten Son. But yet, only, when he was 33 years, God had to watch Jesus walk the way of the cross. But even so, Heavenly Parents, God never gave up on humanity. So with endless and patience, He continued preparing throughout history and for the birth to the only begotten daughter and the true parent. Okay, so let us look more about only begotten daughter. So God chose Mrs. Cho Onmo, Dr. Hak Ja-han's grandmother, and the family, of the family that would prepare for the birth of only begotten daughter. So God guided her to join the spiritual Christian community, and this faith was inherited her daughter, Mrs. Hun-sune. She also devoted herself to preparing the Lord of Second Coming. So in this way, God prepared the 3 generations of the family within the spiritual Christian community movement. And also, in addition, Pastor Ihobin of spiritual Christian community received a liberation that heaven would send someone with a great mission through the marriage of Mr. Han Sung-woo and Mrs. Hong Sun-e. Following this liberation, they were married and the child was born into the family was Dr. Hak Ja-han, the only begotten daughter. But however, after the only begotten daughter was born, Satan tried to harm her. So in a dream, Satan appeared to Mrs. Hong Sun-e and he said, because of you gave birth to her, my world is coming to an end. So he tried to destroy the only begotten daughter. So Mrs. Her mother, she played the day and the night to protect her. And she raised her with great love, care, and devotion. And also another day, an angel also appeared to the Mrs. Hong Sun-e in a dream and told her that Dr. Hak Ja-han was God's daughter. The angel asked to her to raise her with the heart of nurse caring of heavenly precious child. So from that time, I think Mr. Hong Sun-e, she devoted herself to rising. Dr. Hak Ja-han protecting her from worldly influence. And also, Dr. Hak Ja-han's grandmother, Mrs. Cho Onmo, also told her from when she was young. She teaches her, your father is Heavenly Father. So she, at the time, she accepted these words naturally. And after, she later shared that whenever she thought about God, her heart was filled with warmth. So, surrounded by the love and the care of her grandmother and the mother, Dr. Han grew up safety until when she was 6. But at the time, after when she was 6, the Korean War broke out, and her family remained in North Korea because they believed the Lord of Second Coming would appear there. But God would not leave on the begotten daughter under the communist rule. So heavenly parents guided them safety to the south. But this journey was not easy. Even in the hardship of war, living refugees, God continued to protect only begotten daughter. But during the Korean War, God also prepared a safe environment for her by allowing the armed forces of 60 members nations of the United Nations to defend the South Korea. But all told, Dr. Hak Ja-han experienced the suffering of war and the refugee life. So she came to know deeply that God was always with her and protected her throughout every step of their journey. Okay, so I prepared a short video. I hope it helps you picture this moment more
There was
closely.
this, a 5-year-old girl, a mother, a grandmother, running south in the middle. There was this.
Maybe the laptop closer.
The end video.
Oh no, this will be very loud.
A 5-year-old
Oh,
And the laptop as well.
yeah. Sorry.
It's 3 gates. This one needs to get through.
mother, a grandmother, running south in the middle of the night. They'd just been released from a communist prison. Their crime was their faith, and now they're leaving everything behind they'd ever known, with nothing but a prayer and each other. Han Ja-han was born on February 10, 1943, in the village of Shinli in the Anju district of what is now North Korea. Korea was still under Japanese occupation. Her people had endured decades of forced labor and cultural erasure. But her family held on to something the empire could not take away from them. Her mother, Soo Hong, was a woman of deep Christian faith. Her father was a disciple of a well-known Korean preacher. Faith was not a tradition in their household. It was survival. When the Japanese withdrew, a communist government took their place. And among the first freedoms they moved to suppress was the freedom to worship in 1948. Communist police arrested Hak Ja-han's mother and grandmother. They were held for 11 days. She was 5 years old. After her release, her mother gathered her daughter and her mother, and they fled south under cover of darkness. They reached Seoul. They moved further south to Daegu, and then the war came. Between 1950 and 1953, the Korean War killed nearly 3 million people. It destroyed 80% of Korea's industrial infrastructure. Entire cities were reduced to ash. And through all of it, Hak Ja-han survived. A refugee child with no stable home and no father, carried forward by the faith of 2 extraordinary women.
You imagine, it would be more clear to imagine such a difficult journey she had when she was young. Yeah, but always, even though during the period of difficulties, she thought God is always with her. And also, even without being taught by anyone, Dr. Hak-Jahan communicated directly with God from her childhood. So because of the only begotten son and the only begotten daughter grew through a direct relationship with God. So they can understand God's heart and the will more deeply than anyone else. So, and also Adam and Eve failed to keep their purity during their period of growth of hell. But Dr. Hak-Jahan fulfilled her responsibility to keep her purity as she grew. So, and finally, at the age of 16, she realized that her mission was to fulfill God's will. And she made a firm decision that no matter what the difficulties she might face, she would fulfill God's will during her lifetime. So she also determined to work the path to true parents in order to save fallen humanity. So okay. So we have looked at how Dr. Hak-Jahan became the true mother. But now we can let us talk about returning the Messiah. Okay, so we can look again at the mission. Jesus had the only begotten Son before he died on the cross. Jesus' mission was to hold the marriage supper of the Lamb. It means to receive the only begotten daughter and become true parents. But however, because of could not complete the mission, he had to come again, right? So let us think, how will Jesus return? Actually, many Christianity believe that Jesus will come again on the clouds of heaven, right? But as we'll understand, the second coming is not something to be taken literally, but through God's principle of creation and God's providence. Also, as we learned session 1, there is only begotten daughter, the only begotten son forever. So it means Jesus not lose his position as the only begotten son, and the only things left unfinished was the marriage supper of the Lamb. So because of this, the Messiah missions that Jesus began still remains. The heavenly parents raises one person to continue, complete his mission. So we call him, one person, the returning Messiah. So then, the returning Messiah inherited the victorious foundation of Jesus that he prepared, and he completed the responsibility, the only begotten son, and then receives the only begotten daughter, and fulfill the marriage supper of the Lamb, and then with this, they become the true parents. Okay, so also let us guess when and where will the returning Messiah appear. So first, the returning Messiah must appear in the same age and within the same providential foundation where the only begotten daughter is born. So he is called in Korea, it means chosen nation where the only begotten daughter is born. And second, the returning Messiah must prepare for the marriage supper of the Lamb, which Jesus could not complete. So to do this, he must build a spiritual and practical foundation to receive the only begotten daughter. And the third, the heavenly parents chooses one person from among the Korean people to continue Jesus' mission as a Messiah. So he is born into a family that he has inherited the foundation of goodness. So he must take on the mission of the Messiah and walk the course of responsibility to receive the only begotten daughter. So the person was Reverend Sun Myung-moon. He was born in Cheonju, North Pyongyang province in 1920. And from when he was young, he thought deeply about the basic questions of life and the universe. And he also prayed a lot with all his heart for suffering humanity and for the will of God's your God. So then, on April 17, 1935, when he was 15 years old, Jesus appeared to him in spirit while he was praying and asked him to continue the mission of the Messiah. At first, he hesitated and he rejected 3 times because it was such a huge responsibility he needs to bring. But he could not turn away from the will of Heavenly Parent, so in the end, he accepted the mission. And also from that day on, he decided to devote his entire life to fulfill the will of Heavenly Parents. So if we were 15 years old and received the mission like this, well, what would you choose? There is no way, right? You would, right? But I also prepared the video again. I hope it helps you better understand that moment. Let's see.
Finally, after I offered fervent prayers on matters of life and death, Jesus reached out his hand to me. He asked me to undertake a special mission in this world because God was in sorrow due to humanity's suffering. Though I was penniless, I made a pilgrimage around Korea